Hey guys, in this video I'm going to be going through my TBC class picking guide and walking you through the process I used to pick my main going into TBC. Now most class picking guides are going to be overviews of all the classes, and they're going to kind of give you a general idea of what each class does and some of the changes going into TBC. But in this video I'm going to be focusing more on actually breaking down what is important to you when playing the game and what is important to look for in a main, and how to, maybe if you're having trouble deciding between a couple different classes, how to narrow things down. So with that said, I'm going to be going through my process that I use to pick my main, while also, showing you all of the factors that I think are important to consider when picking your main. So the first thing I think is important to consider is all the takeaways from Classic, kind of what you learned, what you like, what you don't, if you played Classic. So for me, there were a few key takeaways. Number one, I really loved PvPing on my rogue, and that's definitely something I would look to do again, in TBC. So if you do find a class that you really loved in Classic and really enjoyed, looking to continue playing them in TBC is probably going to be a really good idea. I also want to play two characters. Throughout Classic, I pretty much exclusively played one character for the majority of Classic, and I think in TBC it might be a good idea to branch out a little bit and try playing maybe more than one class. I think I had ample time in Classic to play more than one class, and I think had I played a second class, I would have been able to gear it up and probably would have had a lot of fun and had some variety. Rather than just solely focusing on one character the entire expansion or lack thereof. So that's another takeaway from Classic is I think I can definitely play two characters in TBC and at least have my alt be something that I play a lot more seriously and gear up and actually get some use out of. Now, another big takeaway for me is I did not like raiding. So some of your takeaways might not necessarily really lead straight into TBC, but it might be something good to think about. So for example, I didn't like raiding because I found world buffs and the amount of consumes, tedious and a lot of farming that I didn't enjoy as much. And I also felt like I just wasn't very impactful, right? And so while raid size in TBC goes from 40 man to 25 man and from 20 man to 10 man in the smaller raids, and world buffs are eliminated and consume requirements are a lot lower. Still, even with all that going away, there's potential that I still might not feel like I'm that important or that I have as much fun just solely DPSing. So that leads into takeaway number 4 is I want to tank in TBC. I felt like as a DPS, I wasn't able to influence some of the fights. If we were wiping or struggling, I felt like as a DPS there wasn't a ton I could do about it. And I think as a tank, having more responsibility will be more fun for me. I feel like I'm more important to the raid and just more active in the success and failure of the raid. So those are takeaways that I have going into TBC. Now, moving past that, I think it's super important to kind of narrow down what kind of content do you care about, what content do you enjoy, and kind of just, what roles do you like to fulfill? Because I know some of you watching are going to be able to immediately say, I am never tanking ever, or I will never heal. But some of you might also be, super wide open and willing to play everything, right? So when it comes down to me, I know that I want to DPS in arenas or battlegrounds, and while I'm willing to do tank, heal, DPS, anything in dungeons, I'm not looking to heal raids, and I'm not going to heal in PvP on my main. I just know that's not something that I'm going to enjoy as much as DPS. So I can safely eliminate all healers from my main character decision. And I'm also just not a huge fan of caster DPS, so I can eliminate those as well. Now, I would encourage you guys to not, jump super quickly to eliminate stuff if you're on the fence, but just through many years of playing, WoW and other MMOs and RPGs, I just know that I'm a big fan of melee classes. I really like, tanking DPS, and I just know that I'm ultimately not going to end up maining a healer or a caster DPS. So I'm able to eliminate those and start narrowing things down. And if you aren't able to narrow things down right away, that's fine. You're gonna have more classes open to research, which, I mean, to be honest, kind of the process of researching mains and stuff is kind of fun. So not necessarily a bad thing. So moving past that, we have the theme, the class fantasy, the class theme. Is there any classes that just don't mesh with you? So in my case, I'm just not a paladin guy. I don't know what it is about paladin. It just does not appeal to me at all. Like the holy protector theme, the holy magic. I mean, just the Templar type stuff. I'm not into it. I would not like being a paladin because I just don't like the visual aspect of what a paladin looks like. I mean, I don't like their theme. Just not a paladin guy, so I can go ahead and eliminate them just because I know I won't have as much fun playing a paladin. Even if it fits the role I want, even if it fits, potentially helps me do what I want to do in the game, just being a paladin is going to be less fun for me. Moving past that, hunter. I almost could have eliminated hunter because they're not melee either, but they're not technically a caster. But that combined with the fact that I'm not a big fan of having a pet. I don't like pet classes, and I'm not really into the hunter theme either. I felt like I was able to eliminate hunter based on the theme. Now, again, we haven't gone through too many bullet points, and I've already eliminated a lot of classes. So don't feel too bad if you guys are wide out in the open and still have no clue what you want to be. Meanwhile, I've eliminated half the classes, right? But moving past that, I think this is a huge one. Are you excited about the class changes? Are you excited about the new abilities, the talents, the content, and viability? When it comes to deciding on what you care about, I would recommend looking for YouTube videos about some of the new abilities. Look up a talent calculator and look at the new talent trees for the classes you're interested in. You can go to TBC databases and try and look up the abilities as well, and you can sort the abilities by the level requirement. And then beyond that, just guides and stuff are going to help you get an idea of what classes get more viable, that kind of deal. So now I'll show you kind of class by class of the classes that I have not eliminated yet, how I answer this question. Am I excited about the class? Because if I'm not, I should probably just eliminate it from consideration if I'm not excited about a lot of the new changes. Because you should be, when you think about TBC, you should be thinking like, oh man, Storm Strike. How sick is that? It's a 10-second cooldown now in TBC. It hits with both of the weapons, so you're going to try and get like two really slow weapons so that they both do their weapon damage when you press Storm Strike. Oh man, that's super sick. And then you also get double Wind Fury on each weapon, which is going to be crazy procs, crazy damage. Like, you should actually feel very excited explaining and describing, the abilities that your character is going to get, the talents you're getting, and even just the viability. It is perfectly fine to be very excited that an enhancement shaman is actually going to do much better damage and is actually viable in PvE, and it's not going to feel like you're going to get laughed out of the room for trying to play enhancement. You don't have to feel bad about getting upgrades and feel like, every item you're aiming for, you're going to be bottom of the prio list because you just play enhancement, right? Being excited about the viability is definitely a reason to be excited about a class. So I kind of talked about shaman a little bit there, but a lot of the stuff I'm excited for would be like water shield, excited to be able to remove your totems and get some mana back, just not having to deal with having like no way to remove your totems other than replacing them is kind of annoying. So that's nice. And I couldn't list anything for resto. I mean, Earth Shield's kind of cool, but same thing with Elemental. I already kind of eliminated those anyway because they're healer and caster, but just to show, like, had I not eliminated them, I personally am not excited by anything that they offer. And so those would be examples of classes that I just wouldn't be interested in playing. Elemental, you get a chance to shoot an additional lightning bolt, but that's just not exciting to me. So if you are going through the classes and you just can't find a reason to get excited, that's a big negative, because you really should be looking forward to TBC. And unless you really loved the character in Classic, for the most part, it's pretty important that you're looking forward to the changes. So talk about some of the shaman stuff. Some of the rogue stuff is on the slide as well. Going over to druid, you can see I think there's enough to be excited for when it comes to Druid. I also could have put just the strength of Druid. Feral Druid tanks are also just a lot better now, going from Classic where they're not quite as strong, and not terrible by any means, but in TBC they're actually strong. You want a Feral tank, they're very good. So a lot of fun new abilities for all the 4 classes that I am still considering, playing in my process here. So no need to eliminate any of them just yet. Now, moving past that, the gameplay is important. So if you're excited about the character and their abilities, you should also be looking forward to how they actually play out in the content, because at the end of the day, you are going to be doing PvE content. Your rotation is going to matter. You're going to be doing it over and over, and the play style in PvP is going to matter, because when you're playing hundreds of games of arena, or you're doing hundreds of dungeons over the course of the expansion, or many hours of raiding, you don't want to feel like it's a nuisance, or you have a rotation that you dislike, or you think is too tedious or too complex or not complex enough. So it's important to kind of think, imagine yourself doing the content, do some research into what the rotation looks like, and figure out if it's going to be something for you. So I would highly recommend videos by ProtCow. He has really good videos on just really quick to the point rotations. So you're going to see on some of these slides, I took just a little screenshot of some of the rotations he has in his videos. So definitely check the description if you want to go check out his videos. Very helpful for just a really quick idea of how the character maybe gears up, or what stats are important. Just a really quick overview for all the classes that are just usually the videos are just a couple minutes. So I'll put a link to ProtCow's channel, and as you see these rotations pop up on the side with these graphics, credit goes to ProtCow there. Just want to give you guys, just a visual representation of what I was thinking about when I was deciding on a specific class. So for example, when I'm thinking of the Enhancement Shaman gameplay, I think their PvE rotation is dynamic enough and is interesting enough to warrant playing. I think, you have to keep the totems up. You can totem twist. You want to keep up Flame Shock. You're Storm Striking off cooldown, and you even have Shamanistic Rage to try and manage your mana. And it is going to add another dimension to the Enhancement Shaman. If you have plenty of mana to spare, you can start aggressively spending mana on Fire Nova Totem, and if you're running out of mana, you're going to have to alter your rotation to try and not run out of mana on your core spells like Storm Strike. So I think Enhancement Shaman for me would be engaging enough. It would definitely be something I would be okay playing in PvE, but with one small concern that, totem twisting may become tedious. Part of a way you can increase your damage as a shaman is to, place Wind Fury totem down. Everybody gets Wind Fury, and then you replace the Wind Fury totem with Agility totem. So everybody gets the Agility totem and Wind Fury. And then when the Wind Fury effect expires 10 seconds later, you place Wind Fury again. And so the idea of this is, it might be cool to add the totem twisting in as another thing to keep the the rotation dynamic, and I like rotations that are a little more complex. But I'm just wondering if maybe it would feel tedious on farm, maybe tedious if I just want to chill and just get through old content that isn't necessarily super challenging at the time. So just a thought in my mind. Over to PvP, thinking of the PvP playstyle, I think the utility of the Enhancement Shaman would be very fun. They're RNG based, which is a little bit of a concern because, sometimes you're just going to get unlucky and it's going to be frustrating. But on the other hand, you're going to get very lucky sometimes, and it's going to be super cool. But beyond that, the Enhancement Shaman feels like it'd be kited a lot. Feels like I'd be in Ghost Wolf all the time. So a little bit foggy on Enhancement Shaman, not super excited about the prospect of Enhancement Shaman PvP, especially because I like the idea of dual wielding. And so, one of the ways you can play Enhancement is a two-hander in PvP. So I would be going with the one-hander approach. And just envisioning PvP, I feel like I would get kited a lot. I'm constantly chasing people in Ghost Wolf, and I just don't know if I'd be able to connect enough that I would have fun. So a little concerned about Enhancement Shaman, and not outright eliminating it from contention yet, but I would say at this point, kind of feeling a little shaky on the Enhancement Shaman as a potential main based on its PvP gameplay. So that is how I went through the Enhancement Shaman. So continuing on with me examining the gameplay, I looked at Rogue. I think the rotation is fun. Once again, credit to ProcCow for the rotation here on the side. I think Energy is a fun resource. Would be very happy playing a Rogue and PvE with their rotation. Even think Mutilate would be a fun way to mix things up and keep things interesting if I wanted to play that ever. When it comes to PvP, I really like that a Rogue would allow me to play double DPS comps, and I really like the kill window, the setup comp. Going back, previously to the arena win condition, I think that's a big deal to consider if you're planning to play in the arena. How is your team planning on killing people? Because for me personally, I would not be interested in any sort of drain comp, drain mana. Not super interested in really long, grindy games with like healing wars. So being able to play a double DPS comp is a huge pro to me because I really like 2v2 arena. So Rogue is really benefiting a lot from being able to play double DPS. That's a big deal for me. There's outplay potential, high skill cap. I think that's really exciting about the Rogue. There's a lot to master, and I think that would keep it interesting and fun. So all in all, Rogue kind of checks all the boxes here when it comes to the gameplay. So Rogue is looking very good as a main in TBC. Moving over to Feral Druid, considering them as a tank, I think the rotation's fun. I think Lacerate is super fun. It's nice that you can DPS as a cat if needed, and I think having utility like Battle Res and stuff can be cool as well. When it comes to PvE, I think the rotation is interesting, and I think definitely a reason to play them if you like that kind of rotation. Again, I love playing classes with energy and rage over mana. But a real question I have to ask myself is, would I ever enjoy a Feral over a Rogue? And I just don't see it in terms of just pure DPS cat. And I don't see why I would ever play, considering I love Rogue so much, why would I ever play a Feral cat over a Rogue? And I just don't see enough reason in the gameplay to do that. So I feel comfortable eliminating Feral DPS from consideration based on the fact that I can't think of any reason I'd want to play him over a Rogue, and I already really like Rogue. So would still be considering playing Bear as a tank, but not as a DPS. Now, when it comes to PvP, Feral in PvP has hybrid healing, high mobility. Just a little concerned that it would not be my style. I could still tank in PvE and then PvP as a Feral, focusing on DPS or hybrid healing. And I could play double DPS as a Feral too, which is nice. But not super sold on Feral. Not sure it would be my playstyle, or it would, that I would love, playing a class, cycloning people, entangling roots, kind of kiting around, running all over the place. Not sure if that would be something I would enjoy, but hey, you never know. So not outright eliminating Feral Druid in PvP just yet. Moving past that to Warrior, considering all the specs, I think as a PvE tank, I think Warrior would be very fun. I like their utility. I like their strong cooldowns. I feel like as a Warrior, I would be able to really have a big impact in the success of a raid if I'm able to use a powerful cooldown at the right time. So if we're really in deep trouble, I can potentially use something like Shield Wall, Last Stand. If I use it just right, could potentially save a wipe, save a lot of time. And I think that's a really fun feeling. When it comes to PvE Fury, I'm just not sure there's enough changes from TBC. And so going back to some of the, changes I'm excited about, wasn't really excited about any Fury related changes. You can see I left Fury blank on this slide here, and that just adds into kind of the gameplay too, is I just don't know if enough changes for Fury. They get sweeping strikes in TBC, and but I just don't feel like there's enough changes there rotationally to keep me excited. Whereas something like Rogue, at the very least, they're adding in Deadly Poison that they have to maintain with Shiv, and they can use Rupture now, and the rotation is a faster pace because they have more energy now. I just don't know that Fury would have enough changes for me. So, not ready to outright eliminate Fury altogether, but a little concerned that I wouldn't be as excited about, new changes in TBC. Looking at arms, I thought the very exciting that they're viable, like I put in the previous slide. But when it comes to the gameplay, everything is perfect about the Arms Warrior rotation to me, except the swing timer. And I just think a swing timer might get tedious. I know it felt like as a rogue, a swing timer was tedious to me, but ultimately I didn't mind on content. If we were doing progression, or I was trying to take things seriously, maybe for just a couple hours during a raid, I had no problem looking at a swing timer. But unfortunately, your damage is going to go down quite a bit as Arms if you're not looking at a swing timer, because it's just the way Slam interacts is it makes it such that your next auto attack will not go off. Slam replaces your next auto attack. So if you use Slam at the wrong time, you potentially are going to miss, you could almost miss out on a full auto attack. You'd lose a ton of damage. So you basically have to use a swing timer. And so I'm a little concerned that Arms might get tedious on farm, or when I'm just, not taking the game super seriously, just want to relax and do a farm raid or something, that it would be a little too tedious to play Arms. So concerned there, but the fact that they have a fun rotation doesn't, keeps them from being eliminated altogether. And then when it comes to PvP, I think Arms is fun. A downside is I wouldn't be able to play double DPS, which would, is actually a pretty big downside to me wanting to double DPS in twos. But they have good utility. They can peel well, but they do get kited. But I still think PvP Arms Warriors would be very fun to play. Moving past that, so now we've kind of gone through what changes am I excited for. We've looked at the gameplay. Now it's time to look at some more of the RPG stuff. Are you excited about the gear? Because I think it's important that you are looking forward to getting certain items, that you are, when you're playing the game, when you're raiding, when you're doing PvP, that you're like actively looking forward to a lot of the rewards, because that can really keep the game more exciting, keep you, pulled in. And I'd recommend, if you have an active account right now, an active subscription to WoW, you can download. It takes a while to download it in a lot of space, but you can download retail, or if you already have retail downloaded, in the retail version of the game, you can actually pull up the dungeon journal for TBC and kind of look through a lot of old bosses. You can look through tier sets. So the retail dungeon journal would be an option to look through some of this stuff. You can look at the WoW wiki specifically for like tier sets. If you just look up TBC tier sets, you can see all the different tier sets. And you can also look through Wowhead if you want to look through all the different items and stuff, just to try and see if you can find items that you think are cool or that you would want to aim for, right? So when I think of Shaman and I'm thinking about, okay, am I excited about the gear they are going to get? So first of all, I think they have really sick tier sets. You can see tier 5 and tier 6 in the bottom left. It's actually tier 6, then tier 5. I kind of put them in a weird order. But so I would say their tier sets are super sick, which is nice. But kind of a counter to that is in PvE, Shamans are going to use a lot of leather. So a lot of the top guides and videos on Shaman do not actually recommend necessarily using the tier set. So that kind of just eliminates one of the reasons why I would want to play Shaman if I'm not able to use the tier set without actually reducing my effectiveness, right? So that's a little bit unfortunate. When it comes to enhancement Shaman as well, an item that you're going to be making if you go blacksmithing, which is really really good, is Dragon Maw, or the Eben Fist Hammer, and you're able, or Drake Fist Hammer, sorry, and you upgrade it into Dragon Strike. So it's kind of like a 3-step process to upgrade the mace, and you can use it for a very long time in the expansion. And because it's one hand in the final patch of TBC, you are likely in TBC Classic going to be able to dual wield both for a very long time. So unfortunately, this is a kind of disappointing for me. In really any class that uses one weapon for a very long time, unless it's like a legendary like Warglaves, it's just not going to be as exciting for me, because I like getting weapon upgrades. I think that's cool. So I'd say it's a pretty big downside that I would not be able to change out my weapon as much unless I wanted to reduce my damage. So a little concerned about that. I'm not a huge fan of the look of the item myself. So honestly, I feel comfortable eliminating Shaman as a main based on these aspects alone. I was already a little shaky about them in PvP, but considering that in PvE I'm going to be wearing a lot of leather, I'm just not going to really like the look of my character, and I'm going to be kind of stuck with 2 weapons that I don't like the look of for a very long time, unless I want to reduce my damage. And while the mace proc is fun, just the aesthetic and kind of from the point of view of looking forward to an upgrade, I just don't think Shaman is going to be a class that I'm going to enjoy as much as some of the other options in TBC. So, and the enhancement Shaman has been eliminated. Moving past that, am I excited about the gear for Rogue? So obviously you can get Warglaives on a Rogue, which is a huge goal that you can set yourself, something you can work towards, and I think is obviously a really sick item, a legendary, very powerful, very cool, with a cool proc as well. So I think Warglaives are like the epitome, like the perfect example of like getting excited about an item that you can get on a certain class. So Warglaives are really cool. Unfortunately, they only have one cool tier set in my opinion, and that's going to be Tier 5 or Arena Season 2. I think the Arena Season 2 set actually looks better than Tier 5, but beyond that, I think a lot of their tier sets aren't that good, and that's kind of disappointing. Now, there's also this item called Spikeblade, which I think is super sick that you get in early game. So between Spikeblade and Warglaives, early game, there's a cool weapon. Late game, if I can get Glaives, those would be super cool. So all in all, I think Rogue has enough to be excited about that it's not worth eliminating. Now moving on to Druid, since we eliminated Feral DPS, we're going to be looking at tank / Feral and PvP. Now a big con for Druid, if I'm going to play Feral, is that I cannot see the gear. I'm stuck in bear form. That's not something I super love, that you don't get to see the progression of your character. Beyond that, another thing, like I mentioned, just being stuck with one weapon for a long time is a little disappointed. And Earth Warden is very good. It's something you can get pre-raid bis, and you do not replace it for a very long time. So that's something that'd be a little disappointing to me, not being able to upgrade the weapon as frequently. And then I just don't like the tier sets. I think they're ugly. So, based on that, I think, I like a lot of things about the Druid, but I think I would just enjoy playing either Warrior or Rogue better based on, these factors here. So I have now eliminated Druid from contention for main. Now moving past that, are you excited about the gear for Warrior? I think the tier for Warrior is very cool. I think all 3 tier sets are sick. When it comes to Fury, it's another downside is that they use the 2 maces just like Enhancement Shaman, but they can also get Glaives, which is really nice. When it comes to Prot, I think they have some cool weapons and some hideous weapons. I think Maud of the Tides is disgusting, but Bulwark of Azeroth is a really cool shield, and combined with the tier, I think Prot Paladins are Prot Warriors are super cool. And then when it comes to arms, just like the past few examples we've been talking about, they also use one blacksmithing weapon for a while. So not super stoked to play arms specifically in PvE, and I think I'm comfortable eliminating arms from something I want to play in PvE, because I'm not going to be super excited about weapon upgrades based on the fact that I'm using a blacksmithing weapon for a long time. And I think as an arms warrior, that's a really big downside, because your weapon is a huge part of your character. But because you can go with a mace that has a really powerful stun proc in PvP, I think that makes it so that in PvP it's not as bad that you're not replacing your weapon as frequently, because you get this really cool stun proc. Now, we've kind of done a lot of eliminating. I think examining everything, we're down to Rogue and we're down to Warrior, specifically Prot Warrior and arms in PvP. And I just don't see playing Fury or arms, because while I can get Glaives on a Fury Warrior, well, I can also get them on a Rogue, and I think I just enjoy Rogue a lot more than Fury. So down to just Rogue and Prot Warrior / arms in PvP. So then I think it's important, now that you've kind of gone through and eliminated a lot of the common, important things, now it's hone in on goals, right? Do you have a target arena rating? Do you have a raid achievement that you're looking to do, like either a specific raid you want to do? Do you want to be a top DPSer? Do you just want to help the raid in any way possible? Are you looking to go for parsing or speed running, anything like that? Same thing with challenge content would also encompass speed running. And in terms of item acquisition, is there any item that you really want, or anything you want to work towards? And so, for me, my goals would be, number one, I want to get 2200 rating to unlock all the PvP gear. Now, I don't think that eliminates anything. I think I could play an Arms Warrior to 2200 rating. I don't think Arms Warrior is restricted from being able to hit that rating. And I also think that I could play a Rogue to 2200 rating. At least, the class wouldn't hold me back, right? Another goal is to clear all the raid content. I think I can clear all the raid content on... I think you can clear all the content on pretty much any class. So that doesn't eliminate any of my choices. I'd like to get Warglaives. And so I think that'd be a really cool goal, a really cool item to get. And that does kind of tip the favor, towards Rogue. Considering between Fury and Rogue, I would prefer Rogue. Can't get Glaives as a protection warrior. And that kind of helps me make my final verdict to play Rogue as my main, and it barely outweighs, the warrior. But I also wanted to tank a raid, right? Which would then point to warrior. But if you see here, I have my goal of playing 2 characters. And while I think I can confidently say that I will main a Rogue, and after examining everything, I want to stick with Rogue going into TBC as my main character. I think I've been able to really narrow down that my second character I definitely want to play is Protection Warrior, and maybe Respect to Arms for PvP as well. So in going through the process, if you are like stuck between 2 characters, easy solution could be to maybe main the one you think you might like slightly better, and then alt the second one. If at any point you feel like you're fighting, right? So when I was going back between Druid tank and Protection Warrior, I kept trying to come up with reasons why Protection Warrior would be a better choice than Feral Druid as a tank, because Feral Druid tanks are very strong, very powerful, and considered like the best late game tank in TBC. And so I was trying to come up with reasons of, okay, there's got to be some catch where we can get these Feral Druids. There's got to be some way I can twist Protection Warrior into being better. And if you're trying to like come up with reasons or excuses to play a class, you should probably just play it, right? You can kind of find yourself really almost rooting for a certain class while trying to make an objective analysis. That's kind of a good idea that, in your gut, you want to play it. So that's kind of how I figured out that I'd rather play Warrior than Feral, based on the aesthetics, based on the rotation, is that I was just thinking about it. I was like, man, I keep trying to root for Prot, and I should just play Prot, right? If I'm going to root for Prot, I should play Prot. So that's one big thing I would recommend is if you feel yourself like cheering for one class, just play that class. That means you want it. And if you're trying to, fix the odds against a certain class or come up with excuses, just play it, right? Beyond that, if you are stuck and you can't decide between certain characters, just note that those characters would be great alts, right? So I was thinking about Enhancement Shaman. I was thinking about Druid. I am going to make those characters as alts. Those are the 4 characters I'm going to be playing in TBC, focusing mainly on the Rogue and the Warrior at first, mainly the Rogue, but then getting the Shaman, getting the Druid up, so you can play them as well. So going through this process, kind of the classes that you eliminate last would probably be, your best candidates to main. Now, if you are still stuck, you just can't, imagine what it would be like, just put yourself in the shoes of the character, right? Envision it. What professions are you going to have on each of the classes? What faction are you going to be? What race are you going to be? Do these help you make the choice, right? So for me, I'm going to be going dual crafting engineering on my Rogue. My Rogue is going to be Horde Alliance. My race, I can play Undead, Orc, or Night Elf. I have 3 different characters. I can play any of those. So I'm happy to play Rogue of any of these, envisioning it, still happy with my choice. But maybe if you're down to 2 classes and you're just stuck, maybe just envisioning, okay, what are you going to play? What are the professions? Just envision yourself doing the content, going back to gameplay. Just try and put yourself in the shoes and try and just go with your gut, right? What feels like it's going to be more fun to play. But anyway, guys, that is it. That's my suggestions on how to narrow down what you're picking, how to pick your main in TBC. It's how I picked my main in TBC. And, let me know what you guys are going to play in TBC, if this helped you. make your decision. If you have any comments, questions, leave them down below. And once again, check out the description for ProcCal. Great videos to help give you a quick view on each of the classes. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you guys next time.